The Lorax recommends another story too about where does garbage go. I wonder where the garbage goes. Oh, no, I don't. We've talked about that lots of times. We know that the garbage can go to the incinerator. We know that garbage can go to the landfill. We know in some places people just throw it on the ground and it makes litter. There's a set of movies and TV shows called How It's Made. And on that show, they talk about how things are recycled. Maybe I'll add a link in here, or you can ask your parents to help you find the How It's Made series that talks about how things are recycled. So How Does the Garbage Go is by Paul Showers, and it's illustrated by Randy Tuning. The essential question is, what are we doing to help the environment? Can you see something that the kids in the classroom are doing to try and make it better? I noticed plastic bins here that are labeled with paper, glass, plastic, and metal. I wonder what they're going to do with those. In our school, we are learning about garbage. Last week, our teacher told us about the way things used to be. She said there was a time when people who wanted to get rid of something just threw it into the garbage can. They threw in garbage like orange peels, chicken bones, the food they didn't eat. They threw in trash too. Empty bottles, tin can, cardboard boxes, and old newspapers. Look at the dog. When they're scraping their plates, he says, "I would have eaten that." Now we know that it's not safe for animals to eat our food scraps sometimes, so we have to be careful about what we give them. So maybe the food scraps could go in your yard, and you can see how after a little bit of time they turn from food scraps into dirt. When you put garbage and trash together, you call it waste. Waste has two meanings. Waste means trash or garbage, but it also means when we use something carelessly and we are not careful with it. In this case, it's talking about when we have trash or garbage. Once a week, the waste was collected in trucks and taken to the dump. In the dump, there were piles of garbage everywhere. All kinds of trash, old tires, broken bottles, tin cans, old newspapers, broken chairs, and sofas. In summer, the garbage rotted and made a terrible stink. Rats came to eat it. Millions of flies buzzed around. The dump was a great big mess. Today, some towns still have dumps where they leave their garbage and trash. At one time, New York City used the ocean for its dump. It loaded its waste or trash on flat boats called barges. Tugboats pulled the barges out to sea, and the waste was dumped overboard. Most of the trash sank, but some of it floated. They're showing you pollution down at the bottom of the river or ocean. And the poor fish, now their water is gross. Often, it floated right back to the beaches where people were swimming. Ugh! Ugh! New York City doesn't throw its waste in the ocean anymore. It has a special kind of dump called a landfill. Other cities have landfills too. Our town has one, and our class went out and looked at it. A landfill is a busy place. Even though they covered the trash with dirt now, look what the little boy noticed. Phew, it smells. Trucks bring loads of waste from the city and dump it in big piles. Bulldozers with scrapers spread out the waste. Compactors with spikes on their wheels move back and forth over it. The waste is all mashed and piled. Why do you think they need to mash it down and cover it with dirt? After that, trucks bring loads of soil. The bulldozers and compactors spread it over the waste. The soil covers up everything. It keeps out the rats and flies. Then the landfill is ready for more waste. Then comes more soil to cover it up. Then more waste and more soil. Layer after layer. A landfill keeps piling up. It gets to be a little mountain. This picture shows us what would happen if we could cut into the side of a landfill. This is what we would see. One day's worth of garbage is here. They've put a layer of dirt on the top and a layer of dirt on the side. Then the next day's waste can go here. And again, they cover it with dirt and put dirt on the side. So in between each day's garbage is another layer of dirt. When the last layer of soil is spread on top of a landfill, grass and trees are planted on it. The landfill becomes a park or a playground. Then the city has to start a new landfill. Waste never stops piling up. There's a place called Mount Trashmore that used to be a landfill, and when I was a little girl, we went and played on that playground. What's in our landfills? I wonder what. They took all of the stuff that we find in the landfills and they broke it down into parts. Half of everything that we put in our trash can that goes to the landfill is paper. 10% of it would be plastic. 20% is other kinds of things, tires, furniture. 13% would be food and yard waste, like when we chop down the broken branches on our trees or palm fronds. 1% is glass and 6% is metal. What if we recycled the glass and the metal and the paper and the plastic? Then we would have a lot less trash. Look, all of this part we could use by recycling. And we could reuse the food waste by putting it on our trees and plants in our yards. So we could even cut down a lot of that. Do you see why they say we could reuse and recycle to make a lot less trash? Some cities try and get rid of their waste by burning it. They build furnaces called incinerators and burn garbage and trash in them. The heat is used to warm stores and offices. It's also used to make electricity. It says how an incinerator works. Trucks bring the garbage, and look, the garbage is picked up by an arm and moved to the facility. And right here, it's being dumped into a furnace. The furnace burns garbage in about 30 minutes. But incinerators don't really get rid of everything. They simply turn waste into ashes, and the ashes still have to go to a landfill. Sometimes those ashes are toxic or harmful, and sometimes the smoke from the incinerator pollutes the air with harmful gases. Gases from the burning garbage have to be carefully cleaned and filtered before they release them into the air. Here's a smokestack, letting out the gases that are cleaned. We don't want to turn dirt or land pollution into air pollution. Today, cities are having a hard time finding places for new landfills. Waste keeps piling up. People keep throwing things away. They throw away too many things. Some of the things they throw away could be used over again. He's got 4 pounds. She's got 4 pounds. He's got 4 pounds. Each person in the U.S. creates about 4 pounds of trash every day. You could do a science experiment. Everything that you would throw away in one day, you could put it in an old plastic bag from the grocery store and then try and weigh it. I wonder, do you throw away 4 pounds of trash every day? How much do you think you throw away? Many cities are now trying something that is new for them. It's called recycling. Recycling means making trash into something new instead of throwing it away. Almost half of the trash we throw away could be recycled. Look for this symbol on glass, metal, and plastic containers that can be recycled. This book is a little old, so some of the numbers might not be accurate. I know that in Cape Coral we've been recycling for a long time. I bet you guys are already in the habit of recycling things at your house. Our city is recycling. We put garbage in the garbage can, orange peels, chicken bones, the food we don't eat. But we keep empty glass bottles in a separate box. Aluminum cans and foils are kept separate too. When we put the cans and bottles at the curb, we pile old newspapers beside them. We flatten our cardboard boxes and pile them next to the newspapers. When the garbage truck comes, it picks up only the garbage and takes it to the landfill. Other trucks come for the bottles and cans and newspapers. Those things don't go to the landfill anymore. Our city sells them to factories and mills for recycling. Paper mills chop up old newspapers and turn them into new paper. One of our other books kind of showed this process. It shows the paper is shredded into a pulp. The pulp is washed and bleached to take off the ink. Then it goes inside a tube, and the water is drained from the pulp. Then the paper is dried and rolled. Aluminum factories take aluminum cans and foil and melt them to make new cans and rolls of foil. The cans from the garbage are put into a machine that chops them up into little pieces. A decoder takes the paint off by heating it to 900 degrees. Then the scraps don't have paint on them anymore. They send them in a conveyor, and so they go into a furnace. A furnace is like a great big huge oven, but it gets super, super hot. This one gets to be 1,220 degrees Fahrenheit. So it can melt the pieces of metal, and the melted aluminum is poured into molds. So it makes a big chunk of aluminum ready to go back to the factory that makes aluminum cans so it can be used again. Glass bottles are ground up and melted to make new glass bottles and jars. Some bottles are sterilized and reused. Other glass bottles are crushed. The glass is put into a furnace. Remember, a furnace is like a big, huge oven that gets super, super hot. Then globs of melted glass are poured into molds. They bring in cool air to cool the glass so it gets hard again. And then we've got bottles. Even plastic can be recycled. Plastic factories chop it up and turn it into things like flower pots and park benches. The plastic goes into a machine that chops it up into tiny little bits. The little bits of plastic are washed and dried with air. Then they go into a furnace. Remember, a furnace is like a great big huge oven, but it gets super, super hot, and it can melt things. The plastic is melted and poured into a mold. That means it's in a big rectangular chunk of plastic that can be sent to places that make bottles or plastic lumber for benches and picnic tables for the parks. So what are we doing to help the environment? We separate our trash and recycling. Lisa made a toy for her dog out of an old sock. You can put food scraps in the compost. The mom started a recycling program for paper at work, like we have our recycling paper project at school. My family gives our old clothes to the thrift store. That way people who need clothes can go and buy them. I carry a lunchbox instead of a bag that I would throw away. We carry string bags to the store so we don't need to take the plastic ones that we would only throw away. Our teacher says recycling is a good start, but we must do more. We must stop making so much waste. We must stop throwing so many things away. We need to find ways to use things over and over again. That's what we've done at home. We used to bring our groceries home in paper and plastic bags. When we emptied the bags, we threw them in the garbage can. When we did that, we were just making more waste to pile up in the landfill. We have stopped doing that. Now we use string bags. They hang on the kitchen doorknob. When we go to the supermarket, we take our string bags and put groceries in them. They're showing an example of a string bag, but you could also use fabric bags. A lot of grocery stores have those now. We never throw away our string bags. They are strong and hold a lot of groceries. We use them over and over again. If you want more ideas of what you can do to help, you could do a Google search about how to reuse things that you don't want anymore. And you can find lots of craft ideas to use old things with, like paper towel rolls. I hope you had a great time with that story and that you can think of 3 or 4 things that you can do to help recycle, reuse, and reduce.